Have you ever imagined what it would be like to live in a world so ancient it seems to belong to an entirely different reality? Before the flood, humanity inhabited a planet that defied everything we know today. It was a time when humans lived for centuries, the sons of God walked among us, and the earth seemed to overflow with extraordinary possibilities. Yet beneath this surface of wonders, a devastating spiritual conflict was brewing, as violence and corruption spread like a plague. This combination of power, longevity, and moral dilemmas turned the pre-flood world into a stage for stories that continue to fascinate and intrigue us to this day. What if I told you that the events of this period are not merely myths or legends? Many cultures around the world, from Mesopotamia to South America, hold stories about a great flood that wiped out nearly all of humanity. Could these accounts contain a kernel of truth? Could science and religion converge to explain the archaeological evidence of past catastrophes? And most importantly, what does this teach us about ourselves, our choices, and human morality? This ancient world was not just about survival. It was about the eternal struggle between good and evil, between sin and redemption. In this video, you'll uncover the profound lessons hidden in the pages of this history, understanding how the choices of that time shaped our morality and continue to echo in our present. Let's journey to the heart of an era where divine intervention was clear and direct, and where every choice seemed to echo through eternity. But be warned, what we learn here might completely change the way you see life, time, and even your faith. So, are you ready to open your eyes to a world that existed before the flood? Imagine a world where human lifespans stretched across centuries, and environmental conditions were so different that they created a temperate paradise. Before the flood, humanity lived on a planet shrouded in a vapor canopy that transformed the climate. This canopy, mentioned in biblical prehistory, may have shielded the planet from harsh solar radiation, contributing to a longevity that now seems almost mythical. Imagine living more than 900 years, like the descendants of Adam. But, of course, such long lives also brought challenges. With so many years to live, the choices between good and evil became even more crucial, and the consequences more lasting. At that time, men and women coexisted with a vibrant and abundant nature. But don't be mistaken, this setting was not free of spiritual conflicts. On the contrary, corruption and violence began to emerge in troubling ways. Why? The answer, at least in part, lay in the ongoing struggle between obedience to God and humanity's inclination towards sin. Think about how, even today, we are tempted to act against our conscience and the impact it has on our lives. Back then, poor choices echoed across centuries, shaping families and entire civilizations. Did you know that, beyond the temperate climate, there was a more direct connection between the divine and humanity? God wasn't a distant idea. He communicated clearly, offering guidance and warnings. The impact of these interactions was immense, shaping human morality in ways that feel distant to us now. Yet, consider how even today, small moments of inspiration or connection can alter the course of our personal history. Like Noah, who heard the divine voice, we are always faced with the choice to listen or ignore. Archaeological evidence and flood myths scattered around the world suggest these stories are not mere fables. There are traces indicating that ancient civilizations experienced catastrophic climatic events, such as large-scale floods. This raises a question. Are these accounts echoes of a real event, or simply the result of a human morality trying to comprehend life's mysteries? The Bible presents us with a narrative that combines divine justice with hope. A justice that is not punitive but redemptive, always pointing toward renewal. If there's one thing we can learn from this pre-flood world, it's that it was marked by a delicate balance between divine intervention and human freedom. Sadly, this balance was broken by growing corruption, leading to the ultimate judgment of the flood. But make no mistake, this isn't just a story of destruction. It's a story of covenant, redemption, and divine protection. Themes that continue to resonate in our daily lives. This brings us to a question that connects us to the next point. How did God prepare Noah to save not just his family, but also preserve the world's species? Imagine yourself in Noah's place, a righteous man in a world filled with violence and corruption. God, in his wisdom, chose Noah for an extraordinary mission: to build a massive ark, a refuge of salvation for his family and the animals that would preserve creation. This was no ordinary task. The Bible describes the ark with precise measurements, about 450 feet long, the length of a modern 15-story building laid on its side. Have you ever thought about the level of faith and dedication this must have required? Noah not only obeyed, but also faced the criticism of his contemporaries. After all, who in their right mind would build a boat of that size on solid ground, far from rivers or oceans? Noah's commitment to obeying God reveals a timeless lesson. Even when others mock you, even when the path seems absurd, following the divine voice is always the safest choice. In your own life, when was the last time you persisted in something despite the doubts of others? Noah reminds us that obedience yields lasting rewards. The building of the ark also symbolizes something greater: divine intervention in humanity. God provided the blueprint, but it was Noah who labored, day after day, to bring it to reality. Just like Noah, you might be called to build something that seems bigger than yourself. It could be your family, your career, or even a life project that reflects goodness. Whatever your ark may be, remember, the process is just as important as the destination. It's fascinating to think that every piece of wood placed on the ark was a declaration of faith. Noah knew the flood was coming, even when the skies were still clear. This act of anticipation teaches us to value prophecy and to act before catastrophic events catch us off guard. How about you? Are you building your ark with patience and resilience, or are you waiting for the winds of crisis to act? Noah's ark is also a metaphor for divine protection. Inside that enormous boat, there was a covenant, a promise of redemption. It serves as a reminder that no matter how terrible life storms may be, there will always be a place of refuge for those who follow the divine will. Think about that the next time you face a challenging moment. Where can you seek your spiritual and emotional safety? And so, with the ark completed and the first signs of the flood approaching, Noah witnessed what it truly meant to trust in God. But what followed wasn't just about water covering the earth. It was about the destruction of wickedness and the preservation of new hope. It's time to delve into the next chapter: the impact of the flood on ancient civilizations and how it transformed human history. The flood was much more than a devastating storm. It was an event that rewrote the history of humanity. Imagine the chaos. Waters rising rapidly, engulfing villages, cities, and entire civilizations. According to flood myths around the world, from the biblical account to the Mesopotamian legends of Gilgamesh, this event was a literal and symbolic turning point. Each of these stories points to the same central idea: a moment when divine intervention brought judgment and, at the same time, renewal. Archaeological evidence points to catastrophic floods that did indeed reshape entire landscapes. Sedimentary records in regions like the Middle East suggest a major flood that may have inspired these accounts. The debate between science and religion is inevitable here, but perhaps it's not necessary to choose a side. Science gives us tools to understand climatic events, while faith reveals the spiritual purpose behind them. After all, the flood wasn't just about water covering the earth. It was about human morality and the impact of choices made over the ages. Have you ever wondered what it was like to live in a society so corrupt that the Creator himself deemed a restart necessary? The descendants of Adam had built rich and complex civilizations, but these societies were deeply marked by violence and evil. What the flood teaches us is that when corruption becomes the norm, judgment is inevitable. It's a reminder for our own lives. What areas of our existence are accumulating the waters of poor choices? Ancient civilizations witnessed God's power in a way that forever transformed human perception of good and evil. Yet even in the face of destruction, hope remained. The ark floated like a beacon of divine protection, reminding us that there is always a path to redemption for those who choose to obey. In our lives, the ark can be represented by the right choices that save us from destructive situations, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. Think also of the animals that entered the ark. They represent not only the diversity of creation, but also God's commitment to preserving life. This detail reinforces that even amid destruction, there is care and intention to protect what is good and beautiful. Like Noah and his family, we too are called to care for what has been entrusted to us, be it people, resources, or the planet we inhabit. As the waters began to recede, the landscape was completely transformed. But what followed was not just a new beginning. It was a covenant, a promise that God would never give up on his creation. And it is at this point that we connect to the next theme, the covenant with Noah and how it resonates in our lives to this day. When the waters finally receded and Noah stepped off the ark, he entered a transformed world. The destruction was evident, but in the midst of it all, God offered something that would forever change the relationship between him and humanity, a covenant. This covenant, sealed with the rainbow as a visible sign, represented much more than a promise never to flood the entire earth again. It was a pact of hope, a reminder that even amidst mass extinction, goodness still had room to flourish. Imagine Noah's emotions as he looked up at the sky and saw that colorful ark, something never before witnessed. For him and his descendants, the rainbow became a tangible symbol of divine protection and God's justice, balancing judgment with mercy. Similarly today, signs of hope often appear in our lives during times of hardship. When was the last time you noticed something simple yet powerful that renewed your faith? Perhaps it was an unexpected act of kindness or a solution that appeared at just the right moment. This covenant also reaffirms a central aspect of the divine relationship with humanity, the desire for redemption. God knew that the human heart would still be inclined towards sin, yet he chose to extend his mercy. Think about that. He didn't give up on us, even knowing our flaws. This challenges us to be patient and compassionate with others, just as God has been with humanity. Another important element of the covenant is the call to responsibility. God entrusted Noah and his descendants with the task of caring for the restored world, respecting life, and maintaining a sense of morality. That call echoes even today. In our modern world, caring for the environment and treating others with respect are direct reflections of this covenant. What steps have you taken to honor this call in your life? Small actions, like avoiding waste or being kind to someone in need, can be your way of continuing this covenant. The rainbow also reminds us that God keeps his promises. It's a practical lesson. We need to learn to trust his word, even when the storm feels endless. Noah had to wait patiently for God's timing. And we, too, are challenged to do the same in our personal journeys. Waiting is hard, but it's in that process that our faith grows stronger. Thus, the covenant with Noah wasn't just a historical milestone, but a prophecy that the relationship between God and humanity would follow a path of reconciliation. However, the story doesn't end there. The post-flood world brought new challenges and opportunities, prompting us to explore how human longevity and interactions between the divine and the human shaped this new era. The post-flood world still carried remnants of a fascinating trait: human longevity. The descendants of Adam continued to live for centuries, albeit in a gradually declining pattern. Men like Shem, Noah's son, still reached impressive ages. But why this longevity? Many believe it was tied to a unique environment, shaped by pre-flood climatic conditions and divine protection that marked that era. Living such long lives offered opportunities for good, but also amplified the effects of evil. How often in our lives does a small mistake grow into something larger simply because we let it persist for too long? With more time to live came more time to learn, build, and interact with the divine. God still spoke directly to humans, guiding them at crucial moments. The Bible shows that this communication wasn't just about issuing commands, but was an invitation to covenant and cooperation. Consider Noah's story. He wasn't merely an executor of a plan, but someone called to actively participate in the salvation of creation. Similarly, God continues to invite us to be active participants in shaping our own destinies. This closeness between the divine and the human also brought enigmatic stories, like the sons of God mentioned in the Bible, who interacted with the daughters of men, resulting in the Nephilim, the giants of the time. These figures, described as powerful and feared, represent a dimension of spiritual conflict and human morality. Could they be a metaphor for forces we still face today? The allure of power that fascinates but corrupts. Think about how we handle influences in our lives. How do we discern what is good from what might lead us astray? Additionally, the interactions between the divine and the human aim to guide humanity, but free will remained a central characteristic. Men like Noah chose to listen to God, while others succumbed to corruption. This choice defines the course of our lives. Like them, we face the daily decision to follow the paths we know to be right. A practical example: choosing to forgive instead of holding a grudge or acting with integrity even when no one is watching. Longevity also allowed ancient civilizations to achieve impressive technological and cultural advancements. It provided enough time for knowledge to be transmitted and improved from generation to generation. This invites us to reflect on how we use our time today. Are we investing in something that will leave a lasting impact? Or are we squandering opportunities for growth and learning? Just as Cain's descendants excelled in areas like music and metallurgy, we too can cultivate our talents for something that glorifies good and contributes to society. However, with so much time and freedom came a growing corruption that threatened the balance of the world. This raises the inevitable question: how did this combination of longevity, cultural advancements, and unchecked corruption lead to increased violence and divine judgment? Let's delve deeper into what happened next. Over the centuries, humanity, even blessed with longevity and divine guidance, began to stray from the path of obedience. Corruption and violence spread overwhelmingly. Biblical accounts describe a time when the wickedness of humanity was great on the earth, and every intent of the thoughts of their hearts was only evil continually. This was not just an individual problem. It was systemic, affecting families, communities, and entire civilizations. It makes us ponder. What patterns are we fostering in our own lives and societies that perpetuate cycles of injustice and suffering? Violence, driven by greed, lust and power, became a way of life for many. Giants, the Nephilim, emerged as figures of great influence but also of great destruction. Their physical strength and social prominence became symbols of a world that exalted power over morality. We can draw parallels to modern times, where power without ethics continues to wreak havoc. Just like back then, we are challenged to resist such temptations, choosing a path of integrity even when it is less valued by society. The height of this corruption resulted in divine intervention that shook all of creation. The flood was more than punishment. It was a moral and spiritual reset. In his justice, God could not allow the world to remain consumed by evil. Yet, even amidst judgment, there was a plan for redemption. Noah was called not just to escape disaster, but to be an instrument of new hope. Have you ever wondered if there is something in your life that needs a flood? A purification to make way for something new and better? This judgment was not instantaneous. God gave time for repentance while Noah built the ark and proclaimed the divine message. Sadly, few listened. This delay in judgment reflects divine patience, an attribute still evident today. God does not act hastily but provides opportunities for change. Just as Noah's contemporaries had the chance to turn their lives around, so do we. What areas of your life are calling for transformation before consequences become unavoidable? The flood carries a powerful message about human morality and the constant spiritual conflict between good and evil. No matter how we try to justify our errors, history shows us that God always seeks to restore order and justice. This is not senseless punishment, but a loving intervention to guide us back to what is right. Consider how, even in life's difficulties, you can find opportunities for learning and growth rather than focusing solely on the pain. After the flood, the world emerged transformed, accompanied by God's promise never to destroy the earth in this way again. This prompts a crucial reflection. How can we live in a way that honors this covenant and avoids the mistakes of the past? Thus, we conclude this cycle with an eye toward the future and the understanding that the flood is not just an ancient story, but a living reminder that hope persists, even in the darkest moments. Now that you've discovered what the world was like before the flood, it's time to ensure this knowledge doesn't get lost in mere curiosity. This story teaches us that choices matter, both the small and the significant ones. Think. What are you building in your life today? Are you creating something that will withstand the storms? Or are you merely letting time pass, at the mercy of your circumstances? Just as Noah built his ark with obedience and resilience, you too can begin to construct something solid and meaningful, even amidst adversity. The lessons of the flood are not just a warning about what can happen when evil is left unchecked. They also show us that, even in dark times, there is a path to redemption, a covenant of hope waiting for those who choose what is right. What steps can you take today to live more aligned with values that truly matter? What areas of your life need an intervention, perhaps even a purifying flood, so that you can start anew? If you feel you are living in turbulent times, remember that divine protection is still a reality. Noah found safety in obedience and faith. You can too. Begin by examining your daily decisions. How do they reflect your morality, your pursuit of justice, and your hope for the future? And more. How can you impact the people around you? The covenant with Noah reminds us that we are called not just to survive, but to care for creation and leave a legacy. What have you been doing to care for the people nature, and spirituality in your life. Perhaps the key to your redemption lies in the simple act of reconnecting with these pillars. Like Noah, we must reflect on our choices, set priorities, and not wait until the waters rise. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us, what part of this story inspired you the most? If this content helped you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning about topics that challenge the mind and strengthen the soul. After all, knowledge is the true arc that helps us navigate life storms. If this video added value to your life, how about leaving a like to help us reach more people? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming content about the mysteries and teachings of the Bible. And one more thing. Share this video with someone you believe will also be inspired by these incredible and profound stories. Together, we can spread even more knowledge and faith. Until next time, and may God bless your journey.